أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم رضي الله تعالى عنه وسادة التابعين وعلماء أملين وآئمة أربع مجتهدين ومقلديهم إلى يوم الدين وبعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, it's our Ramadan edition of our Islam 101. And Islam 101, why I called it that, it's kind of like signifying or showing, you know, uh, information that we should be familiar with in order to reach and elevate in spiritual growth. There has to be a foundation, and your foundations are built off of this type of information that we're actually, you know, uh, going over and studying. When you had the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you were learning ayats and his explaining or him demonstrating by action of explanation of the ayats. As Islam progressed, you had to develop sciences in order to keep Islam intact. So certain things had to be in place in order for you not to deviate or stray away from the path of the Sahabas, the way that the Prophet ﷺ and how the Sahabas took the knowledge. So this is why the sciences were created. And when we're talking about sciences, right? Can can you just pick up the Quran and just read it any old type of way without good reason and without necessity? In order to learn the Quran, in order to read the Quran, what are some of the things you have to have? Wudu, okay. What else? Come on now, don't get quiet. Yeah, I have wudu. What else? How are you reading the Quran? Is the Quran still the Quran if you're reading it in English? No, you have to Arabic language. You have to learn how to read the Arabic, right? And if you compare and look at the Quran today and put it side by side, they do have old like manuscripts on what it was and how it was written during the time of the Sahabas. It's the same, but it's not the same. They started adding things like nuktas and the tashkil, some of the vowels and things of that nature to make it easier for those who came later in order to read the book of Allah with the proper rules. You had tajweed, right? Because you have to remember, it's sinful to just get up and just butcher the Quran without knowing how to read it, right? And so the whole objective, is to reach Jannah, right? And you're doing your good deeds and things of that nature. So they develop a science in itself in order for you to read the Quran, right? Also, there's sciences in order for you to give explanation to the Quran. And those sciences, in that science of tafsir within itself, have sub-sciences such as Arabic grammar, nahu, you have sarf, you have balagha, you have tajweed, right? You have the different qira'ah, the 10 different recitations, and et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot to it. You just can't just pick up and go. However, that was formulated in order to bring about protection the deen from mistakes. Because what's the purpose of tajweed? To do what? Protect your tongue from khata, from mistakes when you're reciting the Quran. What's the purpose of nahu, Arabic grammar? To protect yourself from khata, making mistakes when you're reading and dealing with the i'rab. The same thing with the sarf, right? Protecting oneself from khata. So the whole purpose is to protect yourself from making mistakes, right? That's first and foremost. So in order to become a good leader, what do they usually say? In order to be a good leader, you got to be a good what? Huh? Follower, right? That's why the Sahabas superseded the rest of mankind. The Sahabas were great at following the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why did the Tabi? Because remember, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke about these first three generations, right? The Tabi, those who were the students and the followers of the Sahaba. What made them great? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned them in that hadith, right? Because they were great followers before they became leaders, right? And the tabi, the students of the students who the students of the Sahaba. What made them great, like Imam Malik, Abu Hanifa? Because they were followers, right? So which is also an indication that the best that uh to get good out of everything that you're doing, you have to be a follower of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in those earlier generations, right? That's how you do this thing. So the Sahabas, they became the men and women that they were by being, by following the revelation, learning it, reading it constantly, and putting it in practicing it, right? So the first surah revealed. Anybody know what the first surah revealed is? No, but you're gonna find some interesting information about that. Anybody know the first surah? If you was to look at it according to the order of the Quran that you have today, the Mus'haf, that's not the way everything was revealed. The first surah revealed is the surah that we're going to discuss today, inshallah, which is surah 96, surah Alaq, right? Some people call it surah Iqra, right? So surah 96. And what's important to know about this is that it was a surah that was revealed in Mecca, right? There's a period where the Quran was revealed in Mecca, and there was a period where it was revealed in Medina, right? And the two periods are different because the message, it doesn't change, but more things were being implemented. Okay, it doesn't change the message, but there were more things that were focused on and being implemented. In Mecca, they didn't have a masjid. In Medina, they had a masjid, right? So things are going to be different in Medina than it would be in Mecca. In Mecca, they were meeting together to study, at people's house, Akram's house, right? They would meet and study and things of this nature. And it was like organically, people were organically coming together and they were starting to learn. A lot of their Islam was in secrecy, right? They weren't out in the open like they were in Medina. And when you're saying out in the open, it wasn't like they were absolutely in hiding, but in Medina they had more is it the economic situation was better. In Mecca they were boycotted. It was hard for them to make money. They didn't have the same power. There was an announcement, nobody does any business with them, and so on and so forth, to cause hardship in their livelihood, in their everyday life. And we talking about the Muslims, right? It causes a hardship. And so what happens then, once it's hard for you to live, what happens? When you can't make ends meet, you can't eat every day. You can't take care of your family. What happens with people when they get to that point? They're gonna do what they're gonna do, right? Except for those with iman, they're gonna try to do what they gotta do, but make sure it's within the borders or boundaries of Islam, right? So they had to protect, they had to protect themselves, right? So they had to make hijrah, and there was two hijras. There was two hijras during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? The first one was to Abyssinia, to what is known as Ethiopia or Habasha, right? In that land. Stop it. The second one was when it went to Medina. Okay? So this is why this is important. Rules changed when they got to Medina. In Mecca, they couldn't fight against the Kuffar. They were prohibited from fighting. Okay? But when they went to Medina, now it's time to fight war. You see what I'm saying? So it wasn't the same. Things weren't the same. The rules weren't the same as they were in Mecca, nor were they the same in Medina. So this is why it's always mentioned this surah is a Meccan surah, this surah is a Medinan surah, right? So this is also something. Now, This surah consists of 19 ayats, right? Now let me ask y'all this. Just y'all don't have to know. It ain't about right or wrong right now. My first question, or my only question, is: were all of the surahs revealed all at one time, or were they piece by piece? What you say? Right. Now with this surah, Surah Alaq, it was the first surah revealed, but only 5 ayats was revealed first. Right? So Allah Ta'ala said in the Quran, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, خلق الإنسان من علق, اقرأ وربك الأكرم, الذي علم بالقلم, علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. Right? So the ayahs that was revealed was read in the name of your Lord. Right? Now, why is this so important? This also is the ishara. You could take a lesson from this. If read in the name of your Lord was the first ayat revealed, what kind of indication does that give you about Islam? That Islam is built a foundation built up on what? Huh? Yes, but that's not what I'm looking for. If the first ayat that was revealed was read in the name of your Lord who created everything, what is the indication that Islam is built upon? You're getting close. I'm gonna say it slow. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read in the name of your Lord who created everything. Education, right? So you find that when you analyze and look, we're at a spiritual loss when we're not trying to learn, right? That's the reality. Because if you don't know, you don't have no limitations set. And if you do exceed limitations, then that means you don't care, right? So now, in relation to this, I'll try to keep track of time. In relation to this, look at this. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did not know how to read. Like if you put letters in front of him, he didn't know how to read it, right? And he didn't know how to write as well. Okay. So what you're gonna find out is the response to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Well, you know what? I'm gonna save my commentary. I'm gonna just read from this and we'll go into it. All right. Now, so the beginning of the ayah, the beginning of the revelation, this was a sign, was the beginning where revelation started. It's agreed the first 5 ayats of Surah Alaq is the mark of the beginning of the revelation. Imam Bukhari and everybody is overwhelming proof and evidences from old scholars to new that this was the beginning of the revelation. This was the beginning of the communication of the heavens to the earth. All right? Understand that. The Quran is the last communicating factor. When it was being revealed at that moment, that was the beginning of heavenly divine kalam, right? To humanity on how to follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, our problem is that some of our hearts is dead and we don't see it the same way the Sahaba seen it. So we approach Islam like haphazardly, not so serious, or why you acting so extreme and things of this nature, right? But Allah literally revealed the Quran for us and our benefit, our guidance until the Qiyamah. Because there's gonna come a time where the Quran is gonna be raised from the earth, right? It's not gonna remain on the earth to the end of time. The Quran's gonna be raised, and those who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're gonna be removed from the earth too. They're all gonna die. They're gonna be removed. And the only thing that's gonna be left is disbelievers and chaos. And then that's when the trumpet will be blown, everything will be disintegrated down to nothing. The second blowing, everything will be brought back together and we'll be standing there. That's why it's called Yom Qiyamah. Because you'll be standing in that same spot, right? Not just like chilling, like you just waiting to get in there and who's on a crowded day to get some, some halal fried chicken. But you're going to be standing there worried about every single thing that you've done in this life, right? Every lie that you told, every curse word, every food you ate that was haram, every time you misprayed, you're gonna be worried about all of that. Everything's gonna like a rerun, right? And what's crazy is, as our imagination works with television and cameras and those things, they say you'll see your actions be played back to you on the cam. You're gonna look at the evil that you've done, right? Because a lot of times, if you ever watch court TV, or been in court or got caught on a camera, man, when you actually see yourself doing that crime, that thing looks horrifying, right? You be like, wow, like man, the guilt be all over your face. You be trying to keep a straight face, like, man, you see yourself doing whatever. Like when people watch, how they be always playing videos, like if there was a shooting or something like that, and they show the video, the person to probably see the video and be like, man, they got me 4K, cuz I'm going to jail. You know what I mean? And that's how vivid it is, right? And on the Qiyamah, it's going to be that vivid with you. So anyway, so the Prophet ﷺ, we understood, established that. Now, this is good to make notes on if you're taking notes. There's two other surahs that scholars said was revealed before Iqra. So they debate about which one was the first, right, surah. Some scholars take the position that it is Surah Mudathir, right? Which is Surah 74. Yeah, ayyuhal mudathir, right? That they say that was the second surah, right? When you get time, read them. Read those two surahs. You'll be amazed. The third surah that they claim was revealed, others say was revealed, was what Zubair said. What surah did you say, Zubair, was the first surah revealed? Fatiha. There's other scholars that say Fatiha was it, right? No, only 5 ayats. And I'm gonna get to it a little bit more. You'll see in a second. So you have Iqra. This is important to remember because you may come across a person, right? They may say, nah, Sheikh, the first surah revealed was Fatiha. Or you might be like, nah, it was Surah Iqra. They be like, nah, the first surah revealed was Mudathir. Like, nah, it was Surah Iqra. Now, you have to be able to state your position, right? How do you state your position with clarity? The views can be put, can be reconciled. So in Surah Iqra, Allah, there was a break in the revelation, right? Meaning that it didn't come, he didn't get no ayats revealed to him for a while because the Quran was revealed directly to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He would recite it and the Sahabas would write it down. Okay. So that's how the ayat, that's why I said when the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was alive, the ayats were coming directly from the heavens, directly to us. And this is why if you read, there's a hadith in Riyadh al-Salihin in that chapter where it talks about the death of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? And Ayman was crying, right? Everybody was crying because the Prophet ﷺ had passed, and she was like, "No, I'm crying because there's no more revelation from the heavens. That's it. Our connection with Allah is gone." Right? That's how she felt it, right? And people started weeping even more, right? So because sometimes we don't look at it like that, because why? Where are most of the Quran stored at now? Right here on the shelf, right? So imagine you have the Quran on the shelf, you don't take it with you everywhere, and every time you need to know something or read something, you be like, I can't wait to get home so I can read the Quran. That's why they say books, that knowledge shouldn't be left in the books, but it should be memorized and put in your heart, right? It should be memorized and put in the heart. So anyway, let's reconcile this difference. Let's talk about how how do we make sense of this? Because people are saying there's three different answers saying, no, this is the first surah revealed. No, this is the first surah revealed. That's the first surah revealed. What's our proof that Iqra was the first surah revealed? Pay attention. There was a temporary break in revelation, which the Prophet ﷺ used to become like kind of sad, and because at that time Jabril used to appear to the Prophet ﷺ in his original form, right? Jabril used to appear to the Prophet ﷺ in original form. It scared him when he first seen him, right? And so anyway, there was a period where the Prophet ﷺ thought he was going crazy. He thought he was like losing his mind, right? Because he seen Jabril alayhi salam. Now, so he said it's been a minute before he came to him, and then Jabril appeared once again, and he faced the same situation as he faced when the first the first ayahs of Iqra was revealed to him. On this occasion, they said the opening ayats of Surah Mudathir was also conveyed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? The first ayahs of Surah Mudathir was also revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So you had Iqra, and it was a period where there was a break in Surah Iqra, all right, in ayahs being revealed, okay? But during that time, it says Surah Mudathir was revealed, all right? Now, and he says some of the companions held the view that the Fatiha was the first surah to be revealed, and they probably meant to say the first surah to be revealed completely, because all seven ayahs of the Fatiha was revealed at once. All right, so that's how you reconcile this. Okay, why is Surah Iqra? Why? How do we know Surah Iqra was the first surah to be revealed? There was a why. I mean, why would people think that Mudathir or Fatiha was the first surah? There was a break in the revelation. It was only five ayahs revealed first. Then Surah Mudathir was ayahs from Surah Mudathir was revealed, and then the Fatiha, the complete surah. Right? They said that was the first. Huh? There was a break in Mudathir and Iqra. No. And he said that Fatiha was the first full surah, complete surah revealed. Right? Like Baqarah. Baqarah has 200 and how many ayahs? 280 what? Anybody know? 86. You the man. 286 ayahs, right? So there was a break. It didn't come down. Baqarah, all 286. It came in pieces, right? And that's also another implication that the Quran is to be practiced. It's not a thing to be able to be read like like most today's time. You read if you got a beautiful voice, everybody be like, "Yo, you the shit, lead the prayer." Dude don't know what breaks wudu, right? I remember one time in the masjid, brother was leading the prayer. It was a he had beautiful recitation, right? But he forgot things out of the prayer. He didn't know how to correct the prayer, right? The fifth of how how to apply and practice the salat and knowing the rules of what makes and breaks the prayer. Because if you break your wudu while you praying, is that prayer valid? Exactly. And if you do this consciously, you're committing a sin. Some scholars even say that if you pray without wudu, some scholars even go to the extent, like Imam Akhdari, that you committed disbelief, right? Because it's overwhelming. It's a known bidurori. It's known that you have to make wudu in order to pray. You see what I'm saying? That's how important and how serious, the seriousness of it is. All right, 30 minutes in. Now, so anyway, so the Fatiha was the first complete surah revealed to the Prophet Sallallahu, all seven ayahs at once. So anyway, so the Prophet Sallallahu first experience of the revelation, Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, right, said that Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha says that the revelation to the Prophet Sallallahu started by true dreams. And whatever he saw in a dream would happen in reality as clearly as the light of day, right? Then he would, the Prophet ﷺ would take time out and go into solitude, right? And solitude, going into solitude, and I'm talking about spiritual color. I ain't talking about just go and rent a hotel and go watch Netflix, just to get away from your wife and kids, right? I'm talking about real color. Like when the Shehu, he went in, and that's where the Dala'il come from. When he went into solitude, the Shehu, he went into solitude for about a year and he didn't speak. Didn't know. The only thing he would do is do salawat on the Prophet sallallahu, and he would speak to people by hand gestures, right? Sultan Al-Hajj Abu Bakr rahmatullahi alayh, that died some years back, they said he wouldn't talk from subh until asr. And then after asr, he would deal with matters like he had to deal with like court matters and stuff like that with people because he was a sultan. He would speak then, right? So, but anyway, so he would be secluded, and he used to seclude himself for worship in this in Hira, a cave that's known today as Jabal Nur, right? Which is clearly visible in front of Jannatul Ma'ala, the famous graveyard of Mecca. And that's what the Prophet ﷺ would devote himself and worship for several nights in seclusion before he came back to his family and took provision for his retirement, right? Then he would return to the mother of the believers, uh, Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, right? Yo, y'all distracted. Sit back over there. He would go back to Khadija because he was married to Khadija at this time, right? And for men and women, if you're married to someone that has a mission, and every man in his mind has a mission, but when you really like, on a mission to Deen, and sometimes what you'll find is that Allah Ta'ala will make your situation easy, right? When your niyyah is to spread Islam, right? Allah Ta'ala will make your entire family on that same path. When you look at the families of the men of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala who was spreading and teaching Islam, many of them, especially those who reached the level of Mujaddid, like Sheikh Usman Dan Fodio, his entire family was on board, right? The entire family. His daughters were scholars. His sons were scholars, right? Yo, you too loud. His sons were scholars. Everybody that was involved was part of that learning and teaching process. That is a great sign of barakah. But usually when there's no barakah, it's nothing but chaos, fighting, disarray, all of those things, right? And in our time, we'll see chaos, but we don't try to figure out a solution to the chaos. We look to dominate the other person and subdue them, right? And so therefore you start to find, instead of trying to reconcile by the things of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we'll take all of the different measures. What here you'll learn with Mu'mineen Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, she supported the Prophet sallallahu, right? And so when you're on that, yo, you're about to get busy. So when when you're on that path and spreading Islam, then what happens is that you'll have your family in line with you, and Allah Ta'ala will make things easy for you, right? So these things are important, and definitely always keep your intention in order to seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you'll find a lot. You can learn a lot here from the relationship between the Prophet ﷺ and Khadija, other than just the fact that she was the only wife he was married to at the time. Because that's a bunch of hogwash. Because what do you say about the other mother of the believers? They were there all the way through and through. Matter of fact, as the Prophet ﷺ said, Nisful Deen mina Aisha. Half of the deen is from Aisha. But this is why you think you're hearing right now. Aisha wasn't a grown woman at this time when this was being revealed, right? How was she able to narrate it? Because she learned. She's a transmitter of this information. Now, so anyway, so he would take that time. But in the reports of the two Sahih, right, or the Sahihain, the two authentic books, meaning Bukhari and Muslim, they maintained that it was a whole month. It was a month in the whole month of Ramadan, right? Uh, the traditions are silent about the method of worship that he adopted during this period. So there's no description of what he was doing, how he worshipped Allah Ta'ala when he was in Hira. All right. However, some scholars' opinion that He used to worship according to the Sharia of Nuh and Ibrahim and Isa alayhi salam, but neither any of these reports are anything authentic to support these claims. Right now, I could skip some of this, but this you might, if you go on and continue to start researching, this information becomes relevant to you. I'm talking about uh rejecting of narration and this narration being confirmed. It as you grow in scholarship and the level of scholarship. All right, but it's just good information to know. And they said it's not likely because he was ummiyin. Ummiyin meaning he was unlettered. He didn't. He wasn't literate. He didn't read and write. Okay. It is therefore more likely that his worship was concentration and reflection on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his omnipotence until the truth that is. And the revelation came to him while he was in Hira. So the angel came to him and said, Iqra, right? And the Prophet ﷺ said, Ma ana biqari. He said, I can't. I'm not the one who can read, right? Ma ana biqari, right? I'm not the one that could read. He was under the impression that he was being instructed to read a written document. Since the Prophet ﷺ could not read or write, he replied that accordingly. Then the angel embraced him, squeezed him, right, so hard that he felt pain, and then he released him and said, Iqra, right, read. And the Prophet ﷺ replied again, Ma ana biqari, I'm not the one to read, right? And so he said, then again, Jibril squeezed him again, grabbed him, squeezed him, right? Let him go that second time. And he felt pain again. And then he released him and he said, Iqra, right? And then the Prophet ﷺ, he said, what? Ma ana biqari. I'm not that one that can read. I'm not that guy, right? And then he said, and then they said, then he again, meaning Angel Jibril, embraced the Prophet ﷺ, pressed him for that third time, right? Then released him and said, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, خلق الإنسان من علق, اقرأ وربك الأكرم, الذي علم بالقلم, علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. Right? Read with the name of your Lord who created everything. Right? So what do you learn in that first ayat? Not only about reading, but also Allah Ta'ala created all of creation, right? Khalaqa alladhi khalaq, right? The one who created. Khalaqa al-insana min alaq. Now he's telling you about the beginning of your affair, right? How is children born, right? I know sex. We're not gonna talk about sex. Let's talk about the tools utilized in sex, right? So what happens with sex? All right, how's a child born? What? You said we're not gonna talk about that. I didn't say sex. I'm not telling you, sex is the actual action itself. You took it to Pound Town. Okay. But what happened on biologically? What's going on the inside? Procreation. How? Yeah, how? How though? This is science. How? The ejaculation. What is in the ejaculation? What is in the fluid? Sperm. Sperm. There we go. Sperm, right? And the sperm meets the egg. There we go. That's scientific. There ain't nothing pornographic about that, Joy. You know what I'm saying? So no, the tools. Yeah, I ain't talking about the JJ, and the doctor. I ain't talking about that. We know that. You need those two to meet. So, but the sperm meet the egg, right? The sperm is made of fluid, right? Now, the child, what's the name that they call that little child that's inside? That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the embryo. That little, look at that child. That joint look like a little piece of blood, right? What was the law saying 1,400 years ago? There wasn't no X-ray machines, right? There wasn't no ultrasounds. How would we know this? Allah Ta'ala revealed it. Iqra. Bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. خلق الإنسان من علق, right? That Allah created mankind from min alaq, from that clot, right? A woman could be pregnant with a child and miscarry without having to go to the hospital. You just flush the child down the toilet. right? A woman miscarry, and sometimes the women they had that miscarriage, you'll see that little drop of flesh like blood. It's like a thick piece of blood, right? So this here, this 1400 years ago, Allah Ta'ala is telling you this in the Quran. He ain't had no ultrasound machines and none of that stuff, right? Iqra wa rabbuka al-akram, and read, your Lord is the most gracious, Akram, right? Alladhi allama bil qalam, and he gave you knowledge by means of the pen. Allama al-insana ma lam ya'lam, and he taught you what you didn't know. Because all the knowledge originally goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Before you were able to talk about this, the reproduction system and all of that, it's in the Quran already, right? So through, people did research, and started, seeing that, there's physical eggs, there's physical sperm, there's an embryo, there's a fetus, you got all of the stuff that's connected to the reproduction system. They were able to conduct research and do it. Sometimes the research was conducted on an animal as well, because animals have a lot of similarities with humans, right? They test a lot of medications out on animals before they give them to humans. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. The messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam returned back with the message of 5 ayats, and he was afraid. His heart was trembling, right? And he came to Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. He went to his wife, right? Now, the thing is about this, why I keep emphasizing this, I said you can learn a lot from that, right? Women and men. There has to be a certain level of vulnerability in a relationship, for a man to turn to the woman and vice versa, right? After experiencing that. Because you don't know, some people will be like, man, you crazy, man. Get out of here, man. You ain't read nothing, right? What are you talking about? You heard voices. Man, you bugged out, right? No. Let me show you what Khadijah did. So the Prophet ﷺ, he came to her, he said, Zamalini, Zamalini, like, wrap me up, right? She wrapped him up until he felt, until that feeling that he had left him. And it should be noted that the fear that the Prophet ﷺ felt was due to the great responsibility delegated to the Prophet ﷺ, right? And due to the unusual event of seeing the angel in its original form. Because that'll bug you out. Like, you ever been walking? I don't know, y'all be in the country a lot. I used to go to the country when I was a kid a lot, man. You be walking, you see a snake on the side road. Oh, that's your different. You know what I'm saying? You see the Joker. Like, I see the crocodile one time. I think it was a crocodile. Yeah, it was a crocodile. And them little, them little water banks on the side in what's it called down in North Carolina? Them little, yeah, when it floods over and all that. Bro, I see a little crocodile coming out of there. I was like, yo, we was at the gas station. So it was coming across the street. I was at the gas station. I jumped in the car, turned the car on the left. So so you imagine, imagine seeing an angel in its original form. That'll blow your mind, right? So anyway, he said to Khadija, while he related to her what happened, he said, I fear for myself. Khadija radiallahu ta'ala, she said no, right? Listen how she reassured him. She said, no, by Allah, Allah will never expose you to disgrace you, because you keep family ties and you bear the burden of the weak, and you basically, you take care, you tend to the poor, and you offer hospitality to your guests, and you help people that's in real distress. Those 5 noble characteristics that the Prophet ﷺ had beforehand. He wasn't a selfish individual. Those 5 noble characteristics, but not only that, because your wife knows you at your weakest moment. She knows you at your most vulnerable point. She didn't speak down to him to destroy him. She reaffirmed the good qualities in him on why Allah Ta'ala would not debase him. Right? If you had one of those kind of situations in today's time, we don't know how that would have happened, how that would transpire. Right? But these are characteristics that both men and women need to take on. These 5 characteristics and traits: you keep family ties, you take care of the poor, you make sure everybody eat, you take care of people's needs. That person is a noble person, And I believe that this is why the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that Allah Ta'ala shades the earth with the people by them having their sultan, their leader, right? That sultan gains the shade of Allah Ta'ala on the Qiyamah because they're there to take care of the needs of people. If people didn't have someone to take care of their needs, it'll be utter chaos, right? How do people's needs start? The father starts by taking care of the needs of the family, right? If the responsibility falls up to the father, it falls on the mother to some degree, and then it falls into the oldest son, right? This is the only reason why the male get more of the inheritance than the female. For that reason, right? Women aren't supposed to be out there and exerting themselves, to the like them back-breaking type jobs, right? Which you're starting to see now. You're starting to see women in construction, garbage people, them back-breaking jobs. They like killing themselves, right? And then you got to deal with them. You deal with them when you come home. They just as rough as you, right? And this is why you find a lot of that. That's one of the signs in the time that men imitate women and women imitate men. Why you think the unemployed man, he's so emotional. He's like he takes on the characteristics of a woman, right? And I'm not talking about the one that's unemployed due to a reason. I'm talking about that one that just ain't really trying to do nothing. He has no manly qualities to him. The only thing that you can do is identify him as a male, right? I'm like I said once again for clarity, because I want people to be like, "Oh yeah, you are talking about brothers no job." No, we talking about the bum, right? He has certain qualities. So now, anyway, then Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, she then took the Prophet sallallahu to her cousin, right? Her cousin name was Waraka ibn Naufal, right? Waraka. He was a man who had embraced Christianity, but it's not the Christianity that you're talking about today. Meaning he was the last follower of Sayyidina Isa. He didn't say Isa ibn Maryam was Allah, the son, or any of that. He was a true worshiper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he followed Isa as the messenger of Allah. During the days during the days of Jahiliyyah, right? He used to write Hebrew scripts and he used to translate it into Arabic. So this is Waraka. And this is ability. He knew Hebrew and he knew Arabic. He was very old. He was a very old man. He turned blind. Khadijah said to him, "Oh, uncle's son, listen to your brother's son." Waraka asked him, "My brother's son? What have you seen?" So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam related to him what he had seen. Waraka said, "This is the very same confident, meaning the Angel Jibril alayhi salam, whom Allah Ta'ala sent to the Prophet Musa. Would that I were a young man at this time, uh, I would be alive when your people would, basically expel you from your lands and fight against you. The Messenger of Allah, basically he told him, I'll follow you, right? And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu said, asked Waraka in surprise, what you mean they'll expel me, right? Because with us, we just look at it as we're accepting the truth. But if you ever notice, people hate you if you're on the truth too much, right? Even your own family. He replied, yes, never has a man appeared with the like of that which you brought, but he has been held in enmity. And if your time finds me alive, if I'm still alive, I will help you to the fullest of support. After that much time has passed before Waraka, and he died. And the revelation broke off for a little bit of time. All right. So he said the revelation breaking off, and then we're going to wrap it up, inshallah. The temporary revelation breaking off, according to Imam Suhaili, it lasted for a year and a half. Other reports said that it lasted about 3 years. The first verse, Iqra, Bismi Rabbika alladhi khalaq, right? Let me see that. That's some grammar stuff. Hold on. This is significant in 2 ways. Okay. All right, we'll go over that. So Iqra, it's a prepositional phrase, right? Bismi Rabbika alladhi khalaq. That part, with the name of your Lord. The addition of the word ismi, right? Meaning bad, the bad on there, bad, and then ism. But anyway, significant in two ways. Two ways, okay. That whenever the Quran is being recited, the reader should begin by reciting with that particular formula, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, right? And when Jibril suddenly appeared to the Prophet ﷺ and said, Iqra, he started to apologize, and then he was unable to read and recite because he was ummiyin, he was unlettered. The phrase Bismi Rabbika Ladhi Khalaq, he said Bismi Rabbika, points to the fact that under the present circumstances, the Prophet ﷺ may be ummiyin or unlettered, but Allah Ta'ala has granted him the power to the highest level of knowledge and the most eloquent of style of orientation and eloquence, meaning he's the best eloquence of speech, so that you would surpass and subdue the most educated and the most literate of people as it became manifest later on. Now, what's funny is I was doing a class over the weekend with one of my teachers, Muhammad Abdul Sabor, and he talked about that the greatest miracle, you won't see the miracle of the Quran until you start getting into balagha and ijaz. But one of the things that resonated with me throughout that whole class, he mentioned about the Quran, is that it challenges your mind, it provokes thought. That is the miracle. It provokes thought. It leaves you no other choice but to follow what it's saying, right? And it can't be imitated. That's not the only miracle, but that was what he emphasized on, especially when you had to make an entire science of balagha and ijaz and bayan and things of that nature. Now, and he said the second, Allah has many beautiful names, but the blessed name of Rabb is particularly chosen in this verse here, probably because it supports and emphasizes the theme that Allah Ta'ala cherishes and sustains the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam through all of the different stages of his development. Right? Yo. So. All right. So now all throughout the different stages until he can consummate it. He can make him read and recite, right? Despite being unlettered. And this is amazing because think about it. Someone that can't read, you can't make them read. But however, Allah Ta'ala had done that for the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Sometimes we don't even look at it for what it was. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam literally couldn't read by the third squeeze. Because each time the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam replied was that, but that third time he started reading. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, right? And he started reading. He said, boom, 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 boom. So the second verse after this, and then I'll stop here, inshallah. So the second ayat, the previous ayat referred to the creation of the macrocosmos, right? The entire universe in general. And in this ayat, the phrase khalaq al-insan, which refers to the creation of the microcosmos, meaning all of the things that exist inside on the smaller level, the best and the noblest and the most honorable of creation is mankind, right? Human beings. If analyzed carefully, we'll notice that the man is the epitome of the macro or the large, the larger universe, and he is the small scale representation in a miniature of the large and complex universe. Another reason why man has been particularly mentioned in the purpose of prophethood, manhood, and revelation of the Quran is the implementation of the divine ordinances revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the injunctions, the laws, and acting upon them. So even following the Sharia is something honorable that Allah Ta'ala created for human beings, because animals don't follow the revelation in the same manner, right? Animals just live as animals. But human beings, we have to follow what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. All right. And so we'll stop there, inshallah. And next week we'll go into the next class next Friday. We'll go into the three ayahs, 3, 4, and 5, inshallah. My intention is to finish the entire surah by the end of Ramadan. This class is every Friday, inshallah, at 5 o'clock. So we'll be on it next week. Let me see if there's any comments or anything. Hmm. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Nope, so we good. Inshallah. All right, so I'll see y'all next week. Next class is tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And then we'll have another two classes on Sunday, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك واشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله تعالى وبركاته.